and fund development for the Windsor-Essex Children's Aid Society.
And I'm Tina Gatt, Manager of Community Outreach.
We're really excited to be here today. We're now a little bit into our podcast series, and we've been really excited about the feedback that we've been receiving from our listeners and our viewers. And today we have another great topic to share with you.
I'm especially excited about this podcast because I'm part of the volunteer services team. So I want to welcome Carol Lockhart, who is our volunteer coordinator, and Connie Harrison, one of our long-standing volunteers. Welcome.
Thank you.
Now, volunteer services is definitely an essential service here at the Windsor-Essex Children's Aid Society. We certainly wouldn't be able to do without our volunteers, and we value them very much. And Connie, you've been with us for a long period of time. So as a veteran of volunteerism here at the Children's Aid, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got involved with the organization?
Well, first of all, I am a mother, a mama, and a volunteer driver. I have a friend who was a volunteer. Her name was Betty Jo, and she got me interested in becoming a volunteer, and it showed me that I can make a difference in the children's lives.
And it's been 18 years.
Yes.
Very
and
exciting.
counting.
No doubt you have a lot of stories you could tell.
Oh, definitely. Definitely.
And Carol, why don't you share with us a little bit more about yourself and how long you've been with the agency in this role?
Okay, so I'm coordinator of volunteer services. I've been here since 2001, so this is my 21st year, and we've expanded on our programs, and I really, really enjoy working with the volunteers.
What do you find most rewarding about your work?
It's not only that the volunteers themselves, but it's also that when there's a need out there or a wish for something, it's amazing to see that people, just by sharing themselves, can make that need or wish come true by volunteering. And I think that's an amazing chance for people to make a difference in their community. And they come out and they help, and that need and that wish is granted.
Yeah, for sure. And it's interesting because we talk a lot about volunteer recognition and making sure that we properly thank our volunteers and let them know how much we care about them and appreciate their support. And time again, volunteers say it's just the way it makes them feel, and seeing the kids and being part of some of the families, because you get to know them so well, and driving for the same families, volunteering for the same programs. So it definitely is heartwarming, and it's just really makes you feel good to volunteer. Yeah.
Now, Carol, you have been involved with our volunteer department for, I understand, about 45 years.
With volunteers, yeah.
Yeah. That is fabulous. Again, the stories you could tell.
Mm-hmm.
But any idea of just roughly a ballpark figure, maybe how many volunteers have gone through the cycle over that period of time?
Oh my goodness, no. That was when I was 16, I was elected to be president of YACMAR, which was an old youth association for Canada,
Okay.
for the MR Association.
Yeah.
So that started me off when I was 16. And then I've done different volunteer programs, extended families. So it all comes down to the same thing, which is that if you offer the community opportunities to get involved and your cause is good, they will come and they'll stay with you. I mean, it says something that we have volunteers that are still with us after 18, 20, 25 years, right? We're not doing big formal dinners or anything. They only want to thank you, and they want to know that what they're doing is making a difference. Mm-hmm. And that's what's rewarding for me working with volunteers, is their wish to make life better for others just by sharing themselves.
And I think, yeah, you're absolutely right. And I think volunteers are very special people because obviously you're not doing this for a paycheck. And you're really doing something that's enriching for you as an individual, but also for those that you are providing support to. Namely, here at the Children's Aid, our children, our families, and our youth. And that helps make life just a little more easier for those people.
Yep.
And that's where you're really making a difference. So that's great. Now, Connie, you have been a volunteer driver.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about that role.
I drive to help the children, the parents in the community. It gives me like not satisfaction, but it gives me I can't think
A
of
purpose?
Yes, thank you. It gives me a purpose. It helps me to give back to the community. Driving the same children all the time, you get to have a rapport with them. As Tina said, I have gotten many gifts from the children that I drive. Christmas time, I have a 13-year-old who painted me a painting.
Oh, isn't that nice?
I framed it, I showed it to her, and she was amazed that I kept it and I framed it. And I have a scrapbook that I keep all my stuff in. So it's very rewarding for me. It gives me purpose and to help with my community.
And this young lady, you drive her to school?
No, I pick her up at Mom's and I drive her to London.
Okay.
And then I come home. Well, it's out of London, it's Park Hill.
Okay.
So I drive her every other weekend. And, you have that rapport with them and they talk to you. And she says to me, I really like you. Can you be my driver all the time? And I said, I would love to, but you have to have your mom talk to your worker and request me. So obviously she did because I'm still driving her.
That's great.
Yes.
Well, and certainly we'd want to try to have that continuity for kids because you do establish a relationship.
I agree.
And so that's a family visit drive, but you've done school drives to appointments.
Yes.
Recreation, so really driving a lot for
Yes.
different things.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think, yeah, it boils down to the fact you're not just a person behind the wheel. You're somebody that instills some positivity in this child's life, helps build some self-esteem.
I
And,
agree.
by even carrying on a conversation,
Yes.
you're interested.
Yes.
So that's, again, very valuable in the whole course of our work.
Yes, I agree. Nothing better than volunteering and seeing the children get excited when they see you. It's amazing. I have one little girl and it's like, Connie, guess what? And I did this, or did you notice my ponytails? It's so rewarding.
Right.
That's fantastic. And we do have other volunteer programs. So, Carol, we are on a regular basis inviting the community to participate
Yes.
in our volunteer programs to help us enhance our program goals, to meet our mandate, and just overall be supportive to the families that we serve. So, do you want to talk a little bit about our other programs that we
I
have?
would love to.
And I know
Be an
you would.
opportunity. We have a homework program, and right now for the last couple of years, because of COVID, it's had to be virtual over Zoom. So it happens every Tuesday and Wednesday nights from 6 till 7:30. The kids come onto Zoom, the tutors come onto Zoom, and they go in their breakout rooms and help them with their school academics. And then they come back out to the main room, and the group leader does some group activities with them. Being virtual, we've been able to keep some of our tutors, that mostly are university and college students, and some high school. So we have a tutor that's in med school in Toronto, but because we're virtual, she's still able to be a tutor with us. and we have somebody in London as well. So that's the virtual aspect of it. Hopefully we'll go back to in-person soon because it's a lot easier to develop that friendship with the children for the tutors if they're face-to-face, right? But the program is great as far as the friendships go. Marks may not go up, but we can tell that the self-confidence is rising and their self-esteem is rising when we get comments back from the children that they're putting their hands up more in class, offering that an answer, or they're willing to read that paragraph from the book that they weren't before. So that's a good positive that their tutor finds and relishes, and that's their thank you.
Right.
Our other program is the transportation program, and we drive for all sorts of reasons, as you guys talked about in that. Volunteers are reimbursed. They're compensated for their mileage, and it's a reimbursement. It's not a pay. And we also help them out a great deal with any drive that they want. We provide the car seats for them. There's an orientation process. And the volunteer drivers themselves play a great role in recommending their friends to join our program. Our third volunteer program is the one-to-one mentor. And that's where a person is paired up with a child, and they go and take that child out into the community for activities, for fun, to be a kid again, to forget their troubles, and form this tight relationship with their mentor. And that's a very rewarding program in itself. And then our special event volunteers, so we have two aspects of special event volunteers. We have people that's their primary role, is to be a special event volunteer. And that's very flexible because there's 3 or 4 events a year. So if you're got a lot going on in your life, being a special event volunteer is a great role for you because you can participate or not participate. And then, so we also have volunteers that are drivers or that are tutors and they also help out with some of our special events. And the 5th role is called project volunteers. And lots of times we have family programs going on, parenting programs going on, and the workers need a little bit of help. So a volunteer is given to them and they help with the child minding or they help with the program themselves.
And we have opportunities too for sort of one-time volunteer initiatives. For example, stuffing backpacks and getting a group of volunteers in to do that, to help us fill baskets. And since the pandemic, we've really, with the shifting of some of the online volunteering, we also had an opportunity to partner with the United Way and the Unemployed Help Center, and we were able to redeploy some of our volunteer drivers to deliver baskets to individuals in the community who were experiencing social isolation and food insecurity and just generally mobility issues. So what we've learned in this time is that we can pivot to the needs and also welcome volunteers, new volunteers, to give us other suggestions on how they can contribute to helping us to reach our mandate. So, so these are good opportunities to volunteer with our organization.
We also have community groups, so they're not necessarily coming in to volunteer with us, but they're supporting us. We saw that there was a need to have some newborn layettes created. And so one of our volunteers took that need and ran with it. And now there's quilting guilds that are quilting baby blankets. There are neighbors of these people knitting sweaters and bonnets and booties and all that to create these newborn layettes. And that was there was a need, and now there's like 156 volunteers from these different groups participating in creating these newborn layettes for the new mums.
That's just amazing. It really is. And when you talk about the ripple effect of one volunteer and leading to one interest and another cause, and there's just so much going on here. And I really hope, it's been a rough couple years, as we know, with COVID, that our special event volunteers will be back in the saddle soon. So we're really looking forward to that. So Carol, what would be the process to apply to volunteer here at Children's Aid?
Okay. We have an application package. So when somebody emails or calls with an interest about volunteering with us, an application package is sent out. Then they complete it and return it. They are screened provincially on the provincial database, and then the interviews and references and orientation. So there is a process, and it's very knowledgeable all along the way. You're learning more and more about child welfare. You're learning more and more about CAS and how we operate and our protocols and stuff. So by the time you're doing your orientation, you're well knowledgeable about the agency itself and ready to get going.
Right.
Quite a well-oiled machine.
Yes, for sure. And Connie, you spoke earlier about your friend getting you involved in volunteering with us, and I think that that's what tends to happen is we get our volunteers organically. It's word of mouth. It's really a very wonderful compliment to the work that you're doing and our organization when our volunteers are the ones that are primarily recruiting. So what would you tell someone that was interested in volunteering? What would you tell someone about our agency?
Well, I would say that it helps children, parents, and the community. If you're retired, if you have free evenings, weekends, give it a chance. Volunteer. It may be for you. It may not be for you. I know I got my son-in-law to volunteer. He enjoys it as much as I do. I've also recommended other people. I'm not sure since COVID has been around if they still volunteer, but it is so rewarding to see how you can be an impact in their lives. So
Yeah.
I'm going to volunteer until I can't volunteer no more.
And you raise a good point. Since the pandemic, we have lost a lot of our volunteers. We have volunteers that are on hold. So the appeal to volunteering is even greater now than it ever has been, because at some point we will be offering our programs fully again, and we really do need volunteers.
Yeah, and as we already touched on, volunteers are very special people. And thank you, Connie.
Thank you.
But we want to do what we can to recognize these individuals. But at the same time, we know everybody volunteers for a different reason, and some people like a lot of recognition. Some people just would rather shy away from that type of thing. But again, we can't let it go unnoticed that the importance of our volunteers and the work that we do. So Carol, can you just touch on perhaps the type of recognition that we do and maybe what is most important to our volunteers in terms of that?
Okay. When I do the interview, one of the questions is, what would you like, or how would you like to be recognized? And every single person says a simple thank you, knowing that I'm making an impact in that. So we make sure that, like, when there's a special event or when it's the end of the year and we have some statistics on how much the volunteers have driven that year or how many sessions there were in the homework program, and that we make sure that the volunteers get that impact, get those statistics so that they can see the impact of them coming to the holiday program for 15 days wearing a mask for 9 hours a day, how many children we helped during that 3-week period, how many families we helped during that 3-week period. And that's what is their recognition. That's what they want.
It's
They don't
also
want
important.
the dinners.
Sorry, yeah. It's also important to share that information with our staff, because it is our staff that make those requests often for volunteer support. And so to share that information back to them so that they see the true impact of our volunteers on supporting the children, youth, and families that they work with, it's such an impact, and they are very grateful to our staff, to our volunteers. Yeah. So where do we have a need right now, Carol? Where do we need volunteer support urgently?
I was waiting for you to ask that. I was hoping you'd ask that so I can do my pitch. We are in need of volunteer drivers. So because of COVID, because a lot of our drivers are looking after their family members and things like that, there is a high need for volunteer drivers. So even if you have 2 or 3 days a week that you can volunteer for drives, for school drive, evenings for agency groups, weekends, and that, we could really use your help. We could really use your help. And another area that will be coming up as soon as we can safely go out and do activities in that is the one-to-one mentor program. So if you would like to mentor a child, please consider volunteering with Children's Aid. And I am constantly asked if I have a male mentor for a young boy who doesn't have a positive male role model in their life. And that's so important that our young boys are given a chance to have a positive male role model in their life. So if you've been thinking about volunteering somewhere for a cause, the one-to-one mentorship or the volunteer driving, that's a cause.
That's great, thank you.
Okay. And going back to the drivers, you know, I just want to throw out this sort of amazing statistic that we have here. Of course, this was pre-COVID, and we'll be back at that again soon. But that our volunteer drivers in a typical year drive 2.5 million kilometers, or roughly the equivalent of 3 times around the globe.
Yes.
Isn't that amazing?
Yes.
That is just truly amazing. When I first heard that, I thought, wow.
For sure.
Yeah, so again, it shows the importance of volunteers. And if we're going to go that far driving, then you better listen to Carol and volunteer as a driver as soon as you can, because we really have a need for that. And again, that's something that can be very valuable. And I just throw out there, before we're getting close to the end of our time together today, but I remember a story about one of our volunteers too, who was a driver. And he formed a relationship with one of the boys that he was driving. And he was very interested, this volunteer, in the stock market. Mm-hmm. And somehow every day on the drive, he started talking about what was happening in the stock market daily with this young man, and got him very interested in it. And to the point where this young fellow was just sort of fully embraced in the whole workings of it. And it's also helped him, as he has matured, to look at his own life and his own really independent portfolio of who he can be. So another example of how valuable our volunteers are in the lives of the kids that we have.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So I want to take this time. This has been really interesting, and I've always been very interested in our volunteer program, and I value the work our volunteers do and that Tina does leading that program. But I want to say thank you to both of you, to Carol for all you do here at the agency, to Connie for your great volunteerism, for being a driver, for being a friend, for being who you are to our kids.
Thank you.
And so thank you both for joining us today and telling us more about the volunteer program here at CAS. And do you have any final words that you can offer about the program?
I think that if you look at your life, if everybody looks at their life and thinks and asks themselves, if I can just share myself and make a difference in the world, I should be doing that. You know, there's so many ways out there in the community to help. It doesn't have to be with CAS, But there's so many different ways in the community that you can help, that you can volunteer, and do it. Do it because it's rewarding for you.
Well said.
And I can say that I know being a volunteer that I'm helping people, children, parents, but I just recently lost my husband, and you have helped me by keeping me busy by driving and, you know, like making my day go a little better than what it was.
Thank
So
you.
I appreciate
you.
it.
Thank you,
Thank
Connie.
you.
Thank you, Carol.